So I wish, like, one thing I would have liked to talk about as well. I said that to you. I asked that to you. Like what would happen for you if we would find out tomorrow that plants are sentient? Like, all these criteria that we have. Like I think we already know that plants are sentient. Like, to a certain extent. Uh, at this point, I think it just depends on what your
It's
definition of sentience is, which
yeah,
is
and
not a scientific
I'd have to
thing
tell
to
you that
do.
like I don't even know. It would be a tragedy, and I would it would be really something difficult for me to know now. But I think that it would have severe implications for how I feel about myself and the world.
And I feel like
It'd be
she
horrifying.
would be saying, like, her way to go would be then to say, yeah, but it's a lower form of sentience, and then, or a higher form of sentience, or to say, okay, it is a binary, and then she would make her calculation and say that animals eat plants, and if we do animal agriculture, there would be more plants. But my question then would be, okay, where is the cutoff point? I don't think that there is a cutoff point for
No,
sentience.
I
Like,
I
I don't
think
think
that
that there is a magical, like, from cells to human beings. I don't think that there is a
I gave the
magical
cutoff
cutoff
point.
point where at some point there is no more sentience.
Well, like I said,
What
she
is the
could have
cutoff point?
she should have had a stronger stake in suffering and saying that the emotional ability to process the suffering is really what she actually cares about. Because a lot of vegans don't understand that that's what they're saying, but that's really what they're saying. It's that something can suffer, but unless it can process that suffering, so like if you suffer and then you fear more suffering, this is a much bigger deal than,
Okay, but then you basically introduce that. Then you basically agree that everything is suffering, and
to quote the
then
Buddha,
now,
existence is suffering.
yes, yes, yes. So then you agree that everything is suffering, and
Yeah.
now you've basically introduced a different trait. Like, basically, we're playing name the trait, but just reverse, right? We're
Well,
just playing
I
the
hate I
name the
hate
trait.
I actually said I think I
Yeah,
hate
but
name the
we do
trait,
play
but
it right
she
now.
should be using name the trait against him because it
But
would be the
no,
most
I am
effective method
using.
she
I,
has.
no, no, I am using name the trait.
Yeah.
I am using name the trait in terms of animals versus plants and other living beings.
Yeah,
Like,
and
name one trait that animals, and then you basically
that is the trait.
start doing that. Your trait is basically knowing. Like, it's a very interesting trait. I've never heard it before. Is like knowing about the pain, like processing the pain.
Yeah,
I
having the
don't know. Like,
emotional
that's
capacity to process the suffering, I think, is what most vegans intuitively feel, but they don't know how to verbalize.
so that's your criterion for. So and now I can ask you the same question again. Where is the magical threshold? Like, where is the magical line at which living beings that are sentient, apparently you've changed your stance on that, like, they're all, like, basically like, they all suffer pain, right? All living beings suffer pain. Existence is pain, right?
Sure.
And then at some point, like, from cell to human being, at some point, magically, we get this thing called knowing about pain, or like consciousness, or
There
whatever you want to call
there's
it. I feel like it's all the same. Like everything, like sentience, consciousness, knowing about pain, it's all the same
wait,
thing
wait,
to
wait,
me.
wait. I think that we can make a pretty easy determination about certain life. You go, okay, is it sentient? Yes. Okay. Does it have the capacity for suffering? Yes. Okay. Now,
No, no,
can
no,
it
no,
can
no.
it
You said
emotionally
life is always
process?
sentient. It's not like we don't have to do a
Well,
check
I'm just saying.
for
No, I'm
sentience,
saying
right?
like we're just looking at any object and evaluating. Is it okay? Is this thing worth our
Is this
moral
alive?
consideration insofar as killing it for our pleasure? And then you'd say, is it sentient? Yes. Is it capable of
No,
suffering?
that's
Yes.
where we're trying
And
to go,
then
though.
and then the
Yeah.
important. I'm saying all these boxes would have to be checked in order for me to say here's the line. And then the
No,
most important
I'm
box
not
then
asking
would
about
be
moral line. I'm not asking you about the moral line from
mm,
cell to human being. I'm asking you about the empiric. Like, you seem to suggest that there is some difference between animals and, like, between animals, cells, like cells and animals. Okay,
yeah,
cells. Everything that is to the left of plants,
yeah.
and then we have animals and human beings. And there seems to be some cutoff point where something happens that makes them empirically, scientifically, empirically different, which then results in you having a different moral consideration. But I'm not asking you for the different moral consideration. I'm asking you for the scientific cutoff point. Like, why at some point is there some new mechanism kicking in, which is like, I don't know what you call it, like thinking about suffering, knowing about suffering.
Oh, because that is where I can compare what I understand from my
And
own
where is it?
perspective. It's my
Where is
ability.
that line?
I don't understand what you mean when you say where is that line.
Like you seem to suggest that from cells to
Yeah,
human beings, somewhere in the middle is plants and then animals,
it
right? And
exists. So like it's
somewhere
weird because
here
there's
is a line,
yeah.
is a scientific empirical line, just like before we were talking about the line of sentience, where she was basically saying that sentience starts with animals, right? There was a line, there was a hard line of where sentience starts with animals, and now you have basically introduced a new concept. You said you agree with me that everything is sentient, but now there is a new line which is called thinking about suffering.
Well, I'd say
And now I'm asking you, where is that line?
I would word it a little bit different, but sure.
Yeah, and now
I
my
have
question is, where is that line and why is it there?
well, like we agree that I sort of have to explain something, and I can't like draw a line. There's no like board for me to draw a line on, and I would say it exists within the animal kingdom in that some animals are not on that side, and some animals
Yeah.
are on that side.
But yeah, but when I say draw the line, I mean like give us criteria how science would determine
Oh, I
which one
did,
has crossed that line and which one hasn't.
I
Like
did.
how would we see that? How would a scientist or how would like an observer see if that line is crossed or not?
So I think a really good way to tell and I'm not in the scientific field. I couldn't give you like the be all end all experiment to run, but I could give you an experiment to run, which would be a very good indicator of this. So if you cause suffering onto an animal, and then you approach the animal, or if you did it and then you approach the animal again, if they react in a way that you understand to be fear, if it's showing a fear response, you could even do a brain scan if you wanted. Then there's a good under there's I would say that this is a good indication that this animal does have the emotional ability to process its suffering. It remembered what happened to it, and it is afraid of it happening again. This is a very good indicator of this. There might be a better scientific way to approach this, but I would say at this point we're going into what I would say is like uh, cruelty. This is cruelty now, and this is something that I would. This
This
is
is
something where
but
I would
but
find.
wouldn't you say that what you're saying, like we have described a process, but I think it's really easily summarizable like under a certain word, which is like intelligence.
Yeah, intelligence has to be a factor in there. There's
I mean,
intelligence is
no,
part of it.
like the more like that's basically
But
intelligence.
intelligence is kind of
So
nebulous,
basically,
so I tried not to use intelligence. Rather, I tried to
yeah,
use
but
an
it is.
experiment.
It is intelligence. What you're talking about, like the thing that you're describing, is
Yeah, I thought
intelligence,
that was
right?
baked in when I said it has the emotional ability to process the suffering. Intelligence
But
would
then
be a part of that.
you've basically just replaced sentience with intelligence, and so now you're basically stating that the thing that makes a life valuable is how intelligent it is. Like,
Wait,
and then you have to decide whether that's a binary or whether that's a gradual thing. If it's a
I
gradual thing,
specified
then
the
you
kind of intelligence, though.
it doesn't matter. Like the you can also cite a specific type of intelligence, but then you're basically saying the
I
thing
did.
that makes a life worthy. Yeah, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like the thing that makes like let's call it intelligence A, okay?
Okay. I think I'm wholly
We
consistent
call
on
it
that.
just placeholder intelligence A, okay? Type A intelligence, okay? And now you're basically saying the thing that makes a life valuable is whether they have intelligence type A.
Yep.
That's and now I can ask you, is it a binary or is it something gradual?
It's
Like, and since you have put a
it's a
cutoff point,
binary.
it's a binary, right?
Yeah.
So something that so and then I'm asking you, so is it, do you think that from a cell to a human being, at some point, this ability just pops out of existence? Or do you think that in nature, actually, since you're talking about something scientific,
No,
right?
I think that there
In
would be a
nature,
specific point where it goes, yep, it has this ability now.
it's a threshold, right?
Yes, there's a
So,
threshold, and once it's
so the
crossed,
only
yeah.
way that you can make something that is on a spectrum into a binary is to introduce a threshold, right?
Correct.
So and now I'm asking you, where is that threshold and why is it there?
I don't know what you mean when you say where is that threshold. I told you
You
how,
have something that is on a type A intelligence. Okay, we've called it type A intelligence is on a threshold, right?
let me put it this way. I don't know how to answer it like that, but you could give me
It's
any
on a
being,
spectrum.
but you could give me any being, and I could tell you whether it's past that spectrum or not.
Yeah, but how would you determine that? It's not about you also. Like you're alluding to some scientific, like you say that this is like something scientific,
I,
empiric that you're pointing
I
to,
gave I gave an
right?
example
And
of an experiment that could be done to determine it, but I don't know if that's the best
yeah,
one.
but we know that this is like basically everything that passes this experiment
Yeah,
is everything that is not passing that experiment is basically we can kill, hunt,
yeah,
torture, do whatever we want to.
yep.
Like if an animal, if I find you an animal that is not able to be scared of me, like that doesn't remember that I hurt it before, is off limits. Basically, I can do whatever I want with it.
Well, like I said, you
Is
might be
that your
able to
point?
construct. I'm saying that a scientist in this field might be able to construct a better experiment, but I'm saying at least this is a pass for me. Because I'm not a
Yeah, but
scientist in the
you
field to
would.
tell you how I could determine the best way to determine if there's an emotional ability to process suffering. But
I don't even know if there is I don't even know
well,
like the thing
I
that
gave
you're
an
basically
example.
now introducing is some form of intelligence, which is like, can it remember that I've heard it in the past? Does it have like a recollection of what I did to him? Right? That's the thing that you're
Yeah,
basically that's your
I'm saying
criteria.
that at least this would pass. I don't know how to. I don't know because I'm not a scientist in this field. I don't know the best way to determine where that threshold is crossed, but I know that at this point the threshold certainly is crossed. In which I think is about all you
And
can expect from me outside
if
of
it's
that.
not crossed, I can kill it, right?
Yeah,
And eat it.
yeah.
Okay,
Like
but do you see how like many of the things that you're not eating might fall under that? Like I could trick I could trick something into not being able to do that, right?
wait, I'm but again, like I'm saying that I would not rely on exactly my experiment to do that because I'm not a scientist in the field to know. Like I think that you might be able to do it just by brain scans in experiments that are much
But that
that
is a
encompass more. Hang
but
on.
that is a totally different thing.
You're asking me to give a scientific exact about something that I'm not in the field of, but I'm saying here's the criteria that an experiment, if an experiment showed X or Y, I would say yes or no to whether or not you could kill it. I just don't have this. I don't have the scientific knowledge to be able to construct you the best experiment for it.
Whether you are
But I'm
alluding to sentience or to type A intelligence, what we've now called
this is
type A
type A
intelligence,
intelligence. Yeah, I just don't know the best way to
doesn't
determine that.
Drazi, please let me finish.
Go ahead.
Whether you allude to that or to type A intelligence, you're always basically alluding to science. You're always alluding to empirical facts. So you're saying the world is in such a in a certain state, and that's where I'm deriving my moral distinction from. That's what you're basically saying. You're not it's not like
The world is
you
in such a state.
it's not like you've created it, the task is already there and now science has to figure it out. No, you're saying that the science is there and from there you derive your moral consideration, right? Like you base your whole basis for you being vegan is because you think because of the things that you think we know about animals, right? Empirically. That's
I've
why you're a
said
vegan, right?
in the very beginning,
Why are you
hang on,
yeah.
in the very beginning, I did say that you have to intuit it based on the information you have. The same way that I intuit that other humans, like other minds, exist. So for me, at a personal level, I kind of have to go up based on like I know it when I see it, but I do think that we can use science to boil down exactly where that line is. I just don't have the foreknowledge in science to come up with this exact line. So for myself personally, I operate on this intuition of like I know it when I see it. And I can say like if it crosses if this experiment is performed, certainly it passes, but I do think that there's some other things that we could include more animals with as well, like
What is
that would have
your
less
intuition?
constraints in this.
Your intuition is based on on the things that you see and perceive with your senses, right?
Of course, I would have nothing in
That is
the knowledge that I have. Yeah,
that is empiricism.
correct.
And the best form of that is science. Like the
I'm
most.
not disagreeing.
Yes, and so that's what you're alluding to when you basically say that there is a when you make the difference between animals and other living beings. So you basically make the difference between I make the difference between humans and all other beings, right?
Right.
Right? And when I'm
Right.
saying that, I'm not alluding to science. That's a really big difference between my position and your position. When I'm saying that, I'm just
I
saying
don't
that
disagree with you.
I yeah, I don't make an actual I don't say that animals and humans are actually different scientifically in the way they are. I'm not saying that they are actually different empirically. I'm just saying that I'm drawing an arbitrary line around human beings. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. When you are saying that you draw a line around animals and human beings, you're not saying that you're doing that in an arbitrary way. Like, which would be okay, right? You could just say, I have an
Correct.
arbitrary line. I have an arbitrary line that is bigger than yours.
What
That
I'm
you
saying is
could
that
make that
how I
argument.
feel is subject to change, and how you're
But
feeling
you're
isn't
saying you're
subject
not
to change
saying
because
that.
nothing can change your arbitrary
No,
line.
no, 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 no. Wait. When you're drawing that line, you're not saying that it's arbitrary. You're saying that it's based on actual differences between animals, human beings, and then the rest. You claim that there is a scientific difference, that there is an
Some
empirical
animals,
difference.
humans, and everything else.
Sure, some animals and humans and the rest. So you
Yep.
claim that there is some scientific thing there that makes a difference. And then I'm asking you for it, and basically you come up with an experiment that makes up that difference, right? That is the difference
That
between.
at least does. However, I think that we could end up including more animals if we had a scientist coming up with the experiment rather than me, because I'm limited in my knowledge of science. However, so up until then, I have to use my intuition based on things that I do understand, and say, like, I kind of know it when I see it, but at least this.
But the whole basis for your moral argument is it's not backward. You basically giving the scientists homework to solve for you, but actually the
It's
way
an
you
engineering
you you
problem.
it's yeah, exactly, you're creating an engineering problem, but this engineering problem should have been already solved because that's where you're driving your morals from, right? That's where you're deriving your morals from. Your morals should come from the thing that already exists,
My
right?
morals come
It's
from my
not that.
moral intuitions.
Yeah, so you feel then you could just say, I have an arbitrary feeling of animals and some animals, not even all animals. I have an arbitrary feeling of animals and humans deserving that consideration, and all the rest not getting it. Then we would be
So
on the
I
same
know which
level.
ones for sure pass, and then I have
It's
to use
just
my intuition.
arbitrary.
I have to use my intuition for other ones because I believe that they will probably pass. The ability to have intelligence A. I can't know for certain which all things have intelligence A. However, I am fully confident that science can draw a clear line for the qualifications for intelligence A. Is what
But
I'm
that
saying.
would be
Until we have that, I have to use my intuition, and I do have a clear through line, which I know. But I do think that prior to where I draw that line, there are other things that will be, that science can
so.
prove has intelligence A
So
as
your
well.
line. So intuition. Every time you introduce
Instead of
intuition,
a
basically
thin
what you're saying
instead of a
is.
thin little line,
bas-
I have a very dark line here, and then like a gray line that gets more transparent as it goes because I don't know. And then
So every
the more I can be shown that intelligence A does qualify, I can thicken up that line. Does that make sense?
no,
Oh,
no. Because no, absolutely not. Because you're basically the thing that you're introducing as intuition is basically arbitrary feeling. So the same way I feel arbitrarily, that I arbitrarily put a line around humans, you basically put that arbitrarily around humans and certain animals, and then you
it's not
bring in basically
arbitrary.
science.
It's
It
whether
is
or not I'm
arbitrary.
convinced that intelligence A is
Yeah, but
present.
then but the moment I'm pressing you on how you find out that intelligence A is present, we seem to see that you're not able to go get there scientifically.
Hang on, I am able to
So
draw
what's
a
the
clear.
source of that line?
I'm able to determine a clear line of where I know without having expertise where it can be inclusive. I just don't know how inclusive it can be because I'm not a scientist. Just because I
Wait,
can't.
Drazi, just in general, let's say we draw a line around something, okay? That, like, we have a group of things, and
Hmm.
then we separate one part of that mass from the rest, okay?
Uh
So
huh.
what could be a reason, what could be the reason for why the lines are where they are, right? So let's say we imagine a block like that, a rectangle block, and we just chop it off at some point x, okay?
Uh huh.
And so what can be the reason for us doing that? Like, it must be either some qualia difference in what's in that block, right? That something changes at some point, right? Or
Hmm.
it could be just arbitrary, right? That's the two options that we have.
I agree. And
Okay, and now when I ask you, and my assumption is that mine is arbitrary. It's just based on my feelings about humans, right? It's just arbitrary. I say,
yeah,
okay, I cut it off at humans, and yours is pretending not to be arbitrary. That's what your whole attack against, like, that's the whole reason that the whole thing that you're attacking when you are attacking a non-vegan for not being vegan. That's the reason why you think it's morally better to
hold
be
on.
vegan.
I don't do that though.
I knew that you were going to I knew that you were going to object to that, but bro,
Because
if you say that
my moral
something is
system's for
morally
me.
superior,
I
bro,
I don't I don't
please
I don't
don't.
participate in that though.
Bro, bro,
I don't
you're
participate in
doing the
that.
same thing that she did when I said have to. It's a moral imperative. Like, when I say you attack me, what I mean
Wait,
by
you
that
agree
is
with
that
me
you think that your moral system is like that
because
that the
of
thing
other
that you're
things that I
doing is
think.
ethically better than what I do.
So
And
here's
that
the
is
thing.
a
I
moral
think
attack. That's what
no,
I mean.
here's the thing. I think that we're playing different video games that have different rules.
Please, let me just finish this train of thought.
I
So
thought you
you
were
have
finished. I apologize.
no, no, no. So I want you to know, basically, to tell me, like, we have. Uh, I'm drawing it arbitrarily. You claim to not draw it arbitrarily. That's what makes your ethical system better than mine, right? That would make your ethical system better than mine, actually, because like, I agree with that. Like, I think that if you would find, like, some line that is actually like rocks and for example, with rocks and plants, I think there is this cutoff line where
Mm?
there is no value to rocks, but there is some value. Like, it's bad if living beings die. I don't care about rocks,
I
right?
understand.
So
I
I'm
don't think I'm
pointing
confused
to
about how you feel at all.
sure, but now you basically, in order for you to show that being vegan is better than not being vegan, that it is morally wrong to eat meat, which is the same thing, then you should show why your line is not arbitrary. That's the
Sure.
only way you can win this, basically.
Well, I'm not. So here's the thing. When I talk about what I think, I'll claim it's superior if I think that you have the same foundations that I have. And when I say, like, if I make an argument like I don't think that you think that, now I'm bringing you into my video game. But I understand where you're at. You're playing a whole different game than me. I have to follow the rules that follow from my the other rules that I have. So I build my moral framework from the ground up. Most people build them top down. But I go, and because I
Can
go
you
from mine from the ground up, I think that mine can't be the same as yours always. However, if you agree with me about certain things, that means that now we're going to have a problem where I might say that, like, you have to agree with me. Um, now
I think
to,
you're evading the question. So
for hang
what
on.
what
So
is
for the so
yeah.
can we both imagine a scientist who says, um, "I've developed I have the correct scan. I have the ability to scan, or I have an experiment which I can run, which can determine if any being has intelligence A." Do you is this a feasible scenario?
uh if I can imagine a scientist giving a binary answer to if something has type A, or if something has type A intelligence.
Yeah, we've come
No,
out with an
no,
experiment, and we can
not
perfectly
not not in a
detect.
binary, not in a binary way,
Why not?
because it's empiric. I don't think that something pops into existence at some threshold. Like, you have living beings, and they have certain amounts of complexity,
Hmm.
right? So you have just one cell, and then this thing becomes more and more complex until you get to a human, right? And I don't think that at some point something just pops out of existence. So I think that everything is a gradient basically,
I'll give
and
you a good example.
you
There
would
are
have to, in order to make that binary, he would have to convince me of some threshold that he puts there, after which he says yes and no. So only in that sense I could accept like a binary coming from that,
uh,
binary answer coming from that.
so let's say
You
that
see what I mean?
I understand. I'm going to give you an example and see if you agree with this. Scientists say that there's this quality X that some animals have and some animals don't. And in order to have quality X, an opposable thumb is required.
Yeah,
Okay? So we
yeah,
know that everything that doesn't have an opposable thumb does not have
yeah,
quality X, right?
yeah. That
And
is
that's
quality X, right?
essentially because you have
Yeah,
to have it. Um, and
yeah,
well, I would say that like a stump that has a thumb, it also has a prerequisite of like understanding how to use it or whatever. But it's saying it's necessary in order to have that. I'm saying that we could draw a clear line where the qualities needed to have intelligence A are present. That's where we would draw the line. Whether something truly has it or not, we would treat it as though it does
yeah. You
because it
would
has
put
all
a
the
threshold. That would
prerequisites.
be a threshold. Yeah, you would put a
I agree
threshold
to a
there.
threshold.
Yeah, and now I have to know where is the threshold for type A intelligence. And if the experiment is like set up, like you put a fixed experiment,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, we take a needle and put it into an animal's or living being's uh, inside, like inside of a living being,
Mhm.
and then see if the day afterwards that living being is able to, like, is showing some form of reaction. That would be an experiment, right, where you would
Yeah.
basically have put this experiment as a threshold, and everything that is passing that experiment. But I have many problems with that. Like, the first problem I have is that I don't think that, uh like, first of all, it is now intelligence. Now we're looking at a new criterion. And
Well,
now
we
if
call it
you put this,
intelligence A, so it's kind of looped into it.
yeah, so now I think you might be able to put humans into that, right?
Yeah.
So you might be able to put a human in there, and if this human is uh, mentally not fit enough to basically recognize the person that is has tortured them the day before, it might be totally fine to do whatever you want to that person.
So let's say we have a human that for sure doesn't have intelligence quality A. You have somebody who's on life support, a vegetable. I don't care.
No, not the
You have a
vegetable,
fetus. I
not
don't care.
no, you've not put the bar that low. You've put it pretty high. Like at this point, we're not talking about somebody who's a vegetable or who's a fetus.
Well,
We're
I said who
talking about
clearly
actually
doesn't.
a person. Let's say a person with a severe mental retardation who is not able to like, a blind person wouldn't be even be able to react to that. Like, you would be fine with killing a blind person and eating it.
Like,
Like,
hang on.
that's a fact. Drazi,
I
that's that,
I have said this
you're not
entire
gonna.
time. I said this is for sure, but I am fully confident we can group other things in based on a better experimentation that I'm sure can be constructed. But I
So
am
you
not in
you
the
you walk this
field.
back.
I said this the whole time. I have consistently said that there's a better experiment that could loop in other things. I just don't have the knowledge of that to be able to create the
Okay,
best
so it's a
metric for
bad
it.
it's a bad threshold.
I currently have a poorly drawn
You seem
threshold.
to derive, but you have to, like, the whole idea of it is that your line is based on a specific threshold which is rooted in science. That's why your moral framework is claiming to be morally superior.
It would be
But
informed.
when
Hang
I
on,
press you on what that is,
I don't think that's true.
but we've agreed on that. Like,
Hang on.
didn't we agree on that?
I think that there's a slight disagreement that changes it. What I've said is that it's based on my intuition, which I think can be informed by science.
But intuition is makes intuition, the only thing why you're introducing intuition is to not
No,
say
it's
arbitrary.
because it's honest.
But
I
intuition is arbitrary. Like, intuition and arbitrary is exactly the same thing.
I
Like,
think it,
the part in intu I
okay,
don't think
sure.
that
Hang on. Then can I
intuition
rephrase
and
this?
arbitrary are the same thing. Yeah, sure.
I think that it's based. I think that it is arbitrary, but it is not so arbitrary that it cannot be influenced by things that are not arbitrary. I think that it is an arbitrary line drawn by um, that is the arbitrary line is
It is.
drawn by uh,
So you're saying it's not 100% arbitrary. So
so
it's
I,
only partially arbitrary. It's like 75% arbitrary.
let me try to think of how to word this better.
Sure, sure.
So I would say that yeah, that this, like most things, my intuition is ultimately arbitrary. However, there are non-arbitrary things such as science that can say like that can draw a limit to how far out it can be arbitrary. Does that make sense?
No. So you say so you have a line, and I'm asking you, I have a line, you have a line, and we're comparing the reasons for us in order to see
So,
how good this line
for
is. We
example,
try to find out, like, arbitrary is not good. I've also said to Natalie that, like, my line is already not so good, right? Like my line is a pretty, there is no basis for
my
my
line
line
is not so
basically whatsoever.
arbitrary that it could just automatically include rocks. There are qualifications
But when I
that
press you
limit how
on
arbitrary.
but the problem is that everything that is not arbitrary about your line doesn't make any sense. Like if we would take everything that you're saying about the everything that is not arbitrary about your line, when we think about it, makes absolutely no sense and has horrific consequences.
If you're going to use the experiment that I came up with on the fly, I agree. And I keep saying like I wouldn't use that as one. I'm just saying
But
this one
but
is
you
like for
shouldn't be
sure.
coming but you shouldn't even coming up with something on the fly. You should have already had that and then had your draw your moral line, right?
Oh,
Like it's
it's
not
based
like
on my
you should.
confidence to be able to intuit whether or not intelligence A is present.
But that's the arbitrary, like intuit is the arbitrary part of it. Like we've agreed that your line is a, like basically that's your position right now, is that your line is a mix between arbitrary and science, right? Like between arbitrary and the actual facts of the matter. So that makes your line a little bit better, like 25%, let's say
Do you think that
25%
there's a
better than
difference
my line.
between something that is
Wait, wait, wait,
wholly
wait, wait. And that makes your line a little bit better than my line. But then when I ask you what it is, then you say, yeah, I haven't come up with it yet. You should have had that before drawing that line. Like that should be the basis of your line. That's what makes your line, supposedly makes your line better than mine.
do you think that anything that's arbitrary is equally as arbitrary as the next thing that's arbitrary? Do you think that there's a spectrum of how arbitrary something is?
If you take arbitrary to be something binary, and I think it is a binary word, like just as a semantics game. Something is either arbitrary or it is not. Like you can put then you can say a decision to do something, or in that case to draw a line, can be influenced by arbitrary and non-arbitrary things. So then you can have basically a mix between something being like 75% arbitrary and 25% rooted in reality, basically. So that would be a way that I can square that circle. But
Okay, yeah, I would
uh,
say that I
other
would
than that, like, but that's what I'm saying. Like that would make your line better than mine.
yeah, and I'm saying that I know where there's at least a cutoff, but where the exact line is, I guess would be arbitrary, and I would have to intuit it.
No, no, no. Now you're mixing things up. You already have a line. You have put that line. That line basically is uh, the things that you don't eat, that you think it's morally deplorable to eat. That's your line. That line is already there. There's nothing blurry about it.
Right, and
So
it's
you,
based
you
off my
already,
intuition.
and if that's the case, like if it's completely arbitrary, you can say that, but
Well,
then that
if it
doesn't
was
make your
completely
line better than my
arbitrary,
line.
if it was completely arbitrary, then that would mean that I could all of a sudden group in a bunch of or include or exclude a bunch of other things, and it
No,
wouldn't
no, you
change
cannot
anything.
change. No, no, arbitrary doesn't. The line being arbitrary doesn't mean that you can change it at any point. You draw it at one point, and then it stays that way. But that drawing of that one thing is arbitrary. Doesn't mean that you can change it afterwards. And now you basically, and if the part and all of the part that is not arbitrary, the moment we talk about that, you run into inconsistencies and you run into problems. And that is the reason why I don't believe that your line is actually even 25% non-arbitrary. I think it's completely arbitrary. I think it has no basis in reality whatsoever, your line. I think your line is just as arbitrary as mine.
So
And
you
I think that it is even more it is even a less good, less useful arbitrary line than mine.
do you
But that's a
think
different topic.
do you think that there are some things that can emotionally process suffering?
Emotionally process suffering.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that means because, like, emotionally, that is suffering. Like, I think that the moment you say emotionally process
Ex-
something, I
experiencing,
don't really,
I would say
yeah.
experiencing and then processing it are two different things. So an experience
I
of
think
something
that's
is,
intelligence. Yeah. So there is,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
So when you experience it, the thing happens and then it doesn't change. Nothing changes after it. Once if you're processing it, it means you're integrating this new information and that it is changing something afterwards. That would be the process there, right?
Sure, to be honest. But I don't know why that's relevant. I think, like, even if I would grant you that, like, let's say I grant you that, let's say I grant you that there is beings that have like higher forms of complexity than others, higher forms of like more complex forms of intelligence than others.
That allow for this intelligence A, yeah?
I just don't think that there is a cutoff point. I just think that it's a scale basically.
Okay, sure. But then there's also things that don't, right? Like, for instance, grass. Grass can experience suffering, but it can't emotionally process it.
Grass can experience suffering, but it can't process it.
Yeah, there's no emotion to interact and process and have a
There's no
reaction to
emotion.
expected suffering.
So the thing that I feel like you're mixing up the whole time is like emotions and intelligence.
Well, I'm saying
So
intelligence would be required. Intelligence and emotions have to work together in order to have what I'm talking about.
but at the end of the day, we agreed that everything has emotions, right? Everything is sentient, and now you basically just adding
Oh, I don't think everything has
intelligence as a,
emotions. I think intelligence is a
like,
prerequisite to
everything has
emotion.
sentience. To me, emotions and pain is the same thing. Like, to me, it's all the same. Like, emotions is positive, negative, like pain, joy. That's that's the base of it. Like, that's a simple way of putting it. And I think this a cell has that, and a human being has that. And then
Right.
you can add more colors to it and have different variations of it and stuff like that. And but then the thing that you're introducing right now is now, I think, making calculations, like abstractions, intelligence, and stuff like that. That's what
See, I
you're
think that
adding
intelligence is.
onto it now.
So here's the thing. I
And now
think that
basically you
we
make that
already do
the
make that call
criterion.
based on intelligence.
But now you make that basically the criterion for intelligence, for come again,
Moral consideration.
for moral consideration, exactly.
Yeah, I'm telling you that my position on this has changed, and I'm explaining to you what it was.
No, that's all
So
right.
that's
That's all
changed.
right.
Yeah,
But you run
correct.
into the same problems. Like, if you do that, you would run into the same problems. You would run into the problem of either having to define an experiment as a threshold, right? Which you were not able to do, uh, and which you were not able to do, or you run into the problem that you just put it on a scale, and then you basically have to value the life of dumb people less than the life of intelligent people.
Less?
Yeah.
I probably do, whether I want to admit it or not.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think no, I don't think that it works that way. Like, we could find a human being, we
I know
could
what you
find a human
mean.
being that is, well, wait, we could find a human being that is less intelligent than a monkey.
Yeah.
So you would be fine with killing that human being over the monkey.
Well, no,
We
because
could even
I
find one
still,
that is less intelligent than pigs. Would you be
it,
okay with killing that human being
I think it still
for a pig?
probably has intelligence A. But you find me a human
Careful,
being that
Grogu.
has, you have a human being that has less intelligence than a fly. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Don't care at all.
You would kill a human being over a fly because of their intelligence?
Whoa, 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 whoa. I, I said if you
Like
find
if
me
you
a
have the
human
choice,
being, I,
if you have the choice between killing a fly and a human being, and you know that that human being has less intelligence than that fly, would you kill that human being?
I probably wouldn't kill either, but I would have the same moral consideration for
If you have
either.
the if you have to
Yeah, same
kill
moral
one,
consideration as the other.
like
It,
would you actually would you actually be okay with like flipping a coin on that?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Bro, that's insane. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So how about like that's insane. That's crazy.
Well, I mean,
That is
that's
to me like that like that's actually a sociopathic argument because like it feels like it is a my like it is the value of life comes from how
I would say that's a
capable
human being
something is to
entitled
do
only.
something.
I don't care about it.
I think that's like this is actually like the sociopathic argument. I think because you're basically saying because something is not able to do something that makes it okay for me to kill it, and it is not directly sociopathic, but it is
But
pretty similar to sociopathic arguments. And also and yeah, so and you would still have the problem with the threshold.
um, so let me put it this way: I wouldn't. I probably just wouldn't kill a fly just to kill it. But if you're like, I'll give you uh, $50 if you swat that fly, I might do it. If you were like, and of course we're talking about in a vacuum. Obviously, I'm not going to go to jail or anything. If the same, there was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that everybody agrees is a human, but it has the same capacity as a fly. $50, yeah, I guess I'll be the one to do it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean, I don't know.
the only thing that might make
I
me
have a
have any pause for that is to wonder if there's something about the way that it looks that might impact me in ways that I don't understand, that sort of subverts my intelligence and understanding about things because of how it visually looks. That might give me some pause. Um, but otherwise, I mean, if that was not a thing, then sure.
I'm kind of like I'm starting
Yeah,
to get like creeped out by vegans to be honest. Like I really do because like I feel like uh just the amount of the amount of importance they put on like first of all like the that they can't see that they that they can't see uh the wish to live and the will to survive and like I'm totally like I don't understand how they can think that trees are not able to suffer. I don't understand how they can think that trees are not like trees are communicating with each other. We know that by now. Like I can't understand uh how then that makes like they have no basically no they can't imagine that they are also experiencing similar things to what they're experiencing. That's the first thing I can't
This
imagine.
is a
And
really
then the
interesting conversation to have.
then the second thing that really creeps me out like that's the first thing that really creeps me out because I'm like how can you not see that like that's so insane and then the second thing that creeps me out is that they put they seem to put animals like the way you just did like you basically said that you would kill an animal or a fly over a human being and that scares the shit out of me as well.
The other way around. Well, yeah, but it's really just it's not a human in any way that we would call it a human, other than it's just like its title there.
I
Here's the
mean you have
interesting
pretty
thing.
intelligent there's pretty intelligent pigs,
Well,
right?
we said
So you could
fly.
doesn't matter. Like let's say a pig. Like if a pig would make it better. Like
Yeah,
according
a
to
pig
your
makes
like
it a lot better.
a pig would make you less cruel. I think. Like in the example with a pig, I would have huge problems, but it would
Fly
still
over
be
pig
better
every
than a fly.
time. Fly over pig every
Wait,
time.
but in your moral consideration, it would be like this: we put a pig into a IQ test, right? And then we put a human being into an IQ test, and if that pig wins, basically the human dies.
Hang on.
Like we could construct such a scenario, and you would be fine with that.
Wait. If both of them have intelligence A here, it doesn't matter which one has stronger intelligence A. I would consider either of them being killed to be a tragedy.
you have to construct an experiment. Like either it's a scale, okay? So we already know that in nature everything's a scale, right? But either it's a binary, or we just leave it at that scale, okay? So if it's a scale, we can always make comparative statements, right? We can always say, okay, uh, how many IQ points did it score? If it scored above that, it's right. That's what we can do. So
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't use that
if it
metric.
score, okay, but then you would basically go for a binary way to do it, and then you would basically have to put a threshold. And I think the only
Well,
way
I
you can
think
put a
IQ is a
threshold
bad
right now,
way.
please wait, if no, it doesn't have to be IQ. It can be
Okay.
just another test of
Okay,
intelligence.
that's fine then.
But
Continue.
basically, some test of intelligence would have to be performed in order to create that binary, which would be again an experiment. And in that experiment, we could again construct it between a pig and an animal and a human being, where the pig might win that challenge, and the human being might not win that challenge. And you would have to basically be fine with cutting up that human being and eating it.
So, well, it doesn't mean I want
And
to
that
eat it,
scares the shit out of
but
me.
um,
That's really scares the shit out of me. Like that's
hey,
like
so there's there's
I'm not
there's
really
two
sure if you
things.
actually mean it. Like I'm not even actually sure if you actually mean it, or if vegans actually mean it. But
There's two things
somehow
about
the
it.
rest of the there is a lot of other psychopathic traits. Not with you, but with other vegans. With you, I still have the hope that you actually don't mean it and you're just trying to bite a bullet and you're just trying to be consistent. But I feel like with other vegans, there is some vegans where I actually think that they would be fine with that, and that's what scares the shit out.
You
So
have to
I'm not
consider the
actually
extreme. When
scared of you
in the
right now, but
you gave me such an extreme that that bullet was it didn't even chip a tooth. Because when you say a human that has less intelligence than a fly, hey Froggy Style, thank you so much for the gifted membership. And with Saxon. Um, so in that extreme, you basically just have a husk of flesh that doesn't even. The only reason we call it a human is because it came out of a person. Otherwise, this is like a bizarre being that
w-
gets treated like a human in no other respect.
can you
Um,
not imagine? Can you not imagine an intelligence test that a pig
the
might
problem with
pass? And
that,
no, wait, let me finish. Can you not imagine an experiment where that a pig might pass, but a severely retarded person might not be able to pass?
yeah, and I would probably say that
Intelligence
this
test,
isn't.
not
Yeah, I'd probably say that this doesn't apply because it's not just intelligence that I care about here.
no. We already like type A intelligence we're talking about.
Yeah, type A intelligence includes the emotional ability to process suffering.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. We might, yeah, that's the experiment that you
I would
constructed
say that if a
before.
human being fails that test, it's only a human being entitled. What kind of thing is this? This is an
Wait,
abomination.
you have given an example of that. Like the example that you gave is the ability to know about what has been done to you. So if you're not able to basically
I
have a recollection of what happened to you, it basically doesn't count.
I have said every single time that you've tried to use the experiment that I created that this isn't where I draw the line for sure. This is just a
You need to
spot.
have that. You need to have that in order to even draw your line. If you don't have that, if you don't have that, then you shouldn't draw your line there. That's
I
what you claim, is that you do have that. That's why you're drawing a
My
line.
claim has consistently been that I rely on my intuition. And if you want to say it's arbitrary, that's fine. It's
But
ultimately
what is
arbitrary.
intuition? Intuition, in my opinion, intuition means a mix of my arbitrary feelings and some grounding in reality. That's what intuition means to me. What does intuition mean
Sure.
to you? Okay,
I
but
think
then
that's
it's
good
exactly
enough.
that, just a mix between arbitrary and actually facts of the matter empiric.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about the whole time. But the empiric part, the moment we press you on that empiric part, we are not getting anywhere. And it should be existing already if it's a mix. But it seems like it's not a mix. It seems like it's 100% arbitrary.
You're asking me to construct an experiment to give you my intuition.
No, I'm asking you to basically tell me what part of, like, that it's actually that there is a non-arbitrary part to you drawing that line. Like, can if you can point to one single thing that is not arbitrary about your line, then I'm okay with calling that not completely arbitrary, but being a mix of arbitrary feelings and something that is grounded in reality. But the moment we point to that, you seem to say, yeah, we still have to construct that, but it should already be there because that's the reason why you're drawing that line.
All I can tell you, let me put this. I don't know if it's arbitrary or not, but I feel very confident that there's nothing you could put in front of me that I couldn't tell you which side of the line it was on. So I'd say the failure on me is my failure to produce an
But I can
experiment
do that
to
too.
determine
But I
it.
can wait. But wait. But that's actually the nice thing about arbitrary things, that you can do that very well. I can do that perfectly. I
So
can
can I.
always tell you, yeah, exactly. And but you have to show that your line is less arbitrary than my line, in order for your line to win over my line.
I can say,
In
well,
order for
why
your
can't I
line,
just say they're equally arbitrary and they're equally valid?
because then it would not be morally worse to live my lifestyle than your lifestyle.
I don't think
Like
it
to live
is.
according. You don't think it's, if you say that it's ethically wrong to kill and eat meat,
I'd say it's
you do
ethically
say
wrong
that.
for me to.
Only for you? Why?
Yes,
Why?
because of the other things that I am morally compelled to do. I have always said my moral system is for me. Now, if you start saying things that include you into certain moral conclusions, then I can start to say that you're acting immorally. I would only say somebody's acting immorally based on their own other stated moral positions. I don't come after other people who have a different moral system than mine. I come after people and argue with them when they have certain moral conclusions
So you
that
don't think it's
require them.
morally wrong? So you don't think it's morally wrong for me to eat meat?
No.
So you think it's totally fine for me to eat meat? There is no
I
ethical problems with me eating meat?
I think it would be weird
Only for
if you were
you, it
vegan.
is. Only for you, it is morally,
I
ethically
view
problematic to
morality
eat meat.
for me. I view
Can
morality.
you answer that?
Well, I
Only
don't
is it
think
only for you,
not only for me. It depends on certain
or
moral
who
positions
else?
people hold. People who hold other moral positions that would make it inconsistent
That
for
is the
them
moral
to.
position. Like we're talking about the moral position. That's a tautological thing that you're saying. If you say like only people who think that it's ethically wrong think that it's ethically wrong,
Yeah, it would
that
be
that
wrong.
makes no sense.
Sure, if you think that it's wrong,
Like
but you
why is
choose
it
to do it
wrong for you?
anyways,
Is it wrong for you to eat meat?
yeah,
Is it wrong for me to eat meat?
no,
Okay, what's the difference between the two of us?
because I believe it's wrong.
Do you see that's tautological? That makes no sense.
No, I'm saying that it's
Like why
morally
do you
wrong.
think
Hang
why do
on.
you think it is why do you think it is wrong? Because I believe it is
No,
wrong.
no, 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 no.
That's what you're saying.
Believing something is wrong and acting against that belief is the thing that's actually wrong.
Why do you think it is morally wrong for you to eat meat? Because I believe it is wrong for me to eat meat.
I'm saying that's the
That's what you're
difference
saying.
between me and you. I'd say it's not wrong for you to
Yeah,
do it.
I asked you. I asked you
I
why is
think
it
it's wrong
morally.
for you to not do it, or not wrong for you to do it because your belief structure.
Why is it okay for you? Why is it not okay for you to eat meat? Why is it morally wrong for you to eat meat? And your response is because I believe it is morally wrong for
I'm
me to
sorry, I
eat
thought
meat.
you meant as
Is that
opposed to you.
actually doesn't matter? Like yeah, also in opposition to me. Like you basically it's a tautological thing that you're saying. Why is it morally wrong for you to eat meat? Because I think it is morally wrong for me to eat meat. That is not an answer. That is
Sorry,
tautological.
I, I just got confused in the way that the conversation was.
Sure. Is it more? We can start over. Is it morally wrong for me to eat meat?
No, based on everything that you've told me,
Is it morally wrong for you to eat meat?
yes,
Why? Why for
because
you and why not for me?
because I think that because I don't have to eat
You
meat
can't
to
say because
survive.
I
Well, hang on,
I don't
because
have to eat meat to survive either.
hey, you didn't let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
I don't have to eat meat to survive, and I believe that causing undue suffering to beings that I believe have intelligence uh, is not okay to do.
But that's
because
the thing again. You
because
did
of
it. You
my
did it
hang on,
again.
hang on,
You
hang
did
on,
it
hang on, hang
again.
on, hang on, hang
You
on,
did it
because
again. You
be
just did it again.
can
You
you let
just
me
said
just let
again
me
because I believe it's wrong.
hang on, because I have empathy for them. My empathy compels me not to do it. That would be the shortest way to say it. My empathy compels me to not cause this kind of harm, and I think that to go against my empathy would
Because you
be
have
wrong.
certain feelings. Because you have certain feelings about it,
Yeah,
right?
and I think
And
to
that
go
is
against
arbitrary.
them,
And
to
that
go
is
against
and
them
you
would
would
be
agree
wrong.
that and that is arbitrary.
Well, I think that how I feel is not
I mean,
arbitrary.
just uh, yeah, and then we back at that question if your feelings about it are arbitrary or rooted in science. And then we are back at the beginning where I will ask you, are your feelings arbitrary or are they rooted in actual facts of the matter? And I have feel so then we are back at the same question again. I don't have these feelings, you have these feelings. So
Mm-hmm.
now we can compare our feelings and see which ones are better, if they're even better. If they're not better than each other, like if your feelings are just as valid as my feelings, then it is no problem, right?
Yeah, I think that is the
But that is
case. Why it's
basically
not wrong for you to eat meat.
so you think that uh, as long as someone acts in accordance to how they feel, it makes it morally okay for someone to do something. So is that your standard to determine whether something is ethical or not? So if I'm a sociopath, if I'm a psychopath, if I don't feel bad about something, then I'm basically allowed to do whatever I want. You would never say that I'm ethically wrong for doing something or not. That's basically
Yes,
what you're
usually
saying, right?
when
You're basically saying I'm not morally wrong for doing something because I don't have bad feelings about it. That's what you're saying. But that doesn't make any sense because if I'm a sociopath, I, I wouldn't feel bad about like killing
hang on.
five
That's
women.
we do accept this even in society. That's when somebody pleads insanity, and we don't charge them as somebody who uh, who is making sound decisions. We go, okay, we understand. You're not going to be treated the same as a murderer who knew what they were doing was wrong.
It's not about how we treat them. It's not about what our responses to that
We
is.
treat them
It's
that because
about
that's
if
how
we
we
think that
understand
the
them to
no
be.
no. If it's about if we think that the act in and of itself, if that act is wrong. Like even if you have someone who's completely insane, wait, even if we have someone who's completely insane, we still can say that that act of killing somebody else in that insanity, that act in and of itself is still a bad act, right? We can still say that that's not morally good, that that's bad.
I think that the way that we examine it morally is wholly based on the state of mind the person is. I don't know how it works in other countries, but at least even the legal system here, when if you murder somebody, the thing that matters the most is what your state of mind was when you
It's
did
not
it.
about guilt. It's not about guilt. It's not about guilt. When a psychologist would sit down and try to bring that person away from their delusion, they would tell them, "Listen, you did something bad there. You did something horrible. You didn't know about that you did something horrible, but you did something horrible." Saying that you did something horrible, they wouldn't say the same thing after he ate a steak. In his
Okay.
delusion, he's eating a steak and then he's murdering five women.
Okay.
Both are made in delusion, but one thing is really bad and the other thing is not bad. So his state of mind is important for his guilt or not. But the act in and of itself, that's what we're talking about. If that act in and of itself is bad or not. And the act of murdering five people is bad. Even if you do it under insanity, it is a bad act. It is something bad that's happening to the world. Whereas me eating a steak, me killing a cow to eat something, we're not in accordance. We don't all agree that that is a bad thing that happened there.
That's the
Some of
difference
us
there. It's
say
just
that.
how much
Some of
other
us
people
say that
agree.
no, no. Some of it's at least contentious. So it's not about the state of mind of that person. We're now talking about the act of someone doing something, and you're basically saying, for me, it is okay to kill and eat animals because I don't feel bad about killing and eating animals, but for you, it is bad because you feel bad when doing it. And I'm saying that that's not a criterion we would ever accept to distinguish anything else we to determine the ethical
Sure, it
viability of
is.
anything else.
Of course, it is. In fact, I think that's how I treat pretty much everything. If I do something that upsets somebody, I've had this happen in relationships before. I've had somebody get very, very upset with me and yell at me. Go, whoa, hang on. If you didn't tell me that like that wasn't okay, I don't want to fucking hear any of that shit. If you say, hey, this isn't cool, and then I do it, then go ahead. But I'm not going to accept any responsibility for
I
having
didn't
done
understand.
harm. So
I
if I do something that somebody determines to be wrong, they're like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You're bad for doing that. I'm like, don't come at me with any of that shit. If I didn't know, if to me I
It's not
didn't do
about
anything
agency
wrong,
for an act. It's not about agency for an act. We are looking at an act and trying to like the examples you're bringing up is we already know what we think about the act. We're just trying to find if somebody has had agency over that act. That's something else than determining whether a fact is real. If you see a murder happening, okay, and you want to find out whether that person is guilty or not, it makes sense to find out if there is that person had agency over themselves.
I guess
But
I don't know what you mean
we
when you say
already
an
know
act is
about the
bad, separate from the
we already
actor.
know that murder is bad.
Okay.
We already know we already know that murder is bad, and we're not now just trying to find out if that person had agency over themselves or not. That's not that determines whether that person should be
I don't.
punished, whether we are mad at that person, whether we should punish our feelings towards that person, etc. But we're talking about the ethical consideration of that act.
I don't.
That's the thing that we're talking about.
I don't ascribe morality to an act without an agent knowingly acting. It just makes
You
sense to
cannot
apply
say if
morality there.
you cannot say if murder is if rape is bad or not.
Sure, but I think that rape
Wait,
implies
wait, can you say
somebody's
that?
knowing.
Is rape bad?
Yeah, but built into
Okay,
what
what
rape
you just
means.
did. You
Hang
just
on,
did. You just
hang
did
on.
the thing that you said you couldn't do.
Can I say what I
You
want to
just
say?
did.
Can I say
Sure.
rape involves somebody choosing to do something?
I just asked you a simple question. Is rape bad? You
Wait,
said yes.
I answered that, and now I'm
Period.
trying to say something else, and you're going
Period.
back to.
No, period. And you're able to do that without any additional information. You're able to do that without any additional information, and
You're
you
not
said that
responding
you're
to
not
what I'm
able to do
saying.
that.
When I say rape is bad, I would define rape as somebody uh, doing something. This involves an agent. Yes.
Every act involves an agent.
So let me put it this way: uh,
It's not only for rape. It's for every act.
if somebody's murdered, does that require there to be a murderer?
Yes.
Okay. If if somebody says, "Hey, how do I get out of this building?" They go, "Oh, you just press that blue button over there." They go and press the blue button to open the door, and when they do that, that kills somebody in the next room instead of opening the door. Is that person a murderer?
Darcy, I can't do that. Like I don't know where are we getting at? What are we doing?
Well, I'm trying to say that the morality of an act is based on the actor, is based on the agent committing the act.
We already agreed that an agent committing an act is the requirement for that thing to happen. So
But then, can you
there's
answer
we
my
don't have to do
hypothetical?
anything.
Because I'm just trying to understand
I don't see
how
the
you.
relevancy of that
I'm trying to
hypothetical.
understand how
Like
you connect the
it's
two.
really easy. Like Drazi, you've dug yourself a really bad hole.
I'm trying to
The
see
hole
if
that
you
you
can help
dug
me.
yourself. Can I tell you how I want to help you? You should go out of the hole of it is morally okay for me to do it, but it's morally wrong for you to do it. That is where you went off the rails. Because if you think that something is ethically bad, and you basing that on my feelings, like about what I'm doing. So you basically saying because I don't feel bad about humans being about animals being killed and eaten, therefore it is okay for me to do it. That is the place where you went wrong.
Is all morality
You should take that
objective?
back. You should take that back. Like you should just roll that back but then you end up with other problems. But yeah,
Is all morality
sorry.
objective for you?
Is all morality objective to me? Um, have I said that morality is objective? That any morality is
I'm asking
objective?
you. I'm just asking you a question.
Okay, no, I thought it was like presuming that I said that some morality is objective. That that sounded like okay. Is morality objective or not? That's what you're asking me, right?
Yeah.
I think it has a basis. Like that's what I said about like mirror neurons. It has a basis in like in experience and in empiricism, where I am having certain reactions, and those are the basis of what's creating. This is the base atoms basically of then the morality that we construct upon that.
Wait,
So
but is
there is an objective part to it, which is like my feelings about it, that makes it objective to a certain extent. Yeah,
so is the answer
but
no then? If only part.
no,
If
it's yeah.
I'm just trying to
The, the,
understand.
the answer is that, so if your question is it grounded in something that is real and unchangeable? That's what you mean when you say objective, right?
When I
Like
say
the
objective, I mean
difference.
is morality something that is if something is morally good or morally bad, is it always true? Is morality objective?
Or
Meaning
is it
that
just a point of view, like, or is it just like in some cultures this is good and some cultures this is bad? Like,
sure,
right? Is that what you mean?
yeah,
Yeah. So is there a base in reality that we can all agree on, no matter which culture we come from, no matter which socialization we have,
yeah.
etc. Right? And that's what I mean. So I think that there is a base, that comes from our biology, the base building stones basically that make up our cultural morality that we have around certain things, and these basically these building stones are what we feel about it,
So
what we
some
feel about
morality is
certain things that we
objective.
see. No, I think it is the foundation is objective, but then we build stuff out of that foundation.
What
We
is the
build some
foundation
stuff out of
in
the
terms of
foundation is the
morality?
feelings. The foundation is the feelings that we have towards seeing certain things. This is the foundation. These feelings,
Can you put this
like
into moral
this.
terms for me?
What do you mean?
So when I say is morality objective, um, you're having a hard time answering that with a yes or no. So I offered you is some morality objective, and I'm still not really sure. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding your explanation in relation to the question.
Yeah. So if I ask you, is is are the things in your room, are they organic, right?
Some of them.
So yeah, and then you would say basically, yeah, to like, is it biological, like what you or not even biological, but is it natural what you have? Like basically the building stones are natural, right? The building stone, what you take out of it is coming from nature, but then you build something with that,
Hmm.
right? Then you
Yeah,
transform it to a certain extent that it is like very far away from nature now. So
yeah.
that's
I
what I
actually
think is
think
also
what's natural
happening.
is a really interesting conversation to have too. But
Yeah, so the way it is abstract from humans, like the just the way it is, like without nature versus culture. So nature in the different, like in the sense of not culture, not something that we create. And I think that the thing that we don't create is our immediate reaction to seeing someone bleed, seeing someone being harmed, like things like that. I think are th- these reactions are not based on culture. These are like natural reactions that we have, and that's the objective part in ethics. Like that's the and then we take these feelings that we have towards certain things, and then we construct something culturally from that. And
so,
that part is subjective. That part is not objective.
so it sounds like what you're saying is that there are some objective moral foundations, and past that, it is, morality is subjective.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I really wanted to understand. I just don't I don't
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
in objective morality. I think that there's a lot of things that there's like immense amounts of overlap that we just kind of
I
agree
mean,
on.
to such an extent that I mean, if I take what you say seriously, to such an extent you don't believe in objective morality that you would even say that something can be ethically wrong for me, but not for you, even though we are sharing the same culture and the same time and the same like everything, right? So you actually think that that there is no like to me what you're basically saying, you're basically you're destroying ethics as a concept completely. There is no more ethics in that sense, because ethics is what you should do. Like ethics is an ought to. Ethics is a guidance for what you should do. But if these ethical rules don't only work within one individual and only make sense with, you've basically eroded ethics completely.
I
There
would
is no more ethics.
I would say
Like
that
we can
ethics.
just throw ethics in the garbage, and that's even more scary, I think.
I think that ethics, the validity of an ethical system is based on the consistency of it. Now we might find them to be like
How
totally
can there be
abhorrent or whatever.
consistency? How can there be consistency if it only operates within one individual and it doesn't never transcends one individual?
Well, I think that there's other people that would have the same. I don't think that it inherently only exists in one individual. I think that other people come to the same moral conclusions as well, and end up with the same system. That's why I said too. I can start to say you're
I
doing
think you
something
should walk
morally
back.
wrong.
I think I think you should walk back that part of the conversation. The part where you say that it is okay for me to do it, but not for you to do it. Um, I think that makes absolutely no sense. Like like because because like you could basically with that argument you could justify killing people and like just becoming a serial murderer. You could totally justify like it would be in that ethical like if you see ethics that way, it can be totally ethical to become a serial murderer and you could do everything
I
basically, and you would still say, no, he's totally ethically, there is no problem whatsoever. He didn't feel that he was doing anything bad to these children. So what's the problem? There is no issue there, and that makes no sense. I don't think that you believe that. Like
I
that's why I'm basically begging you to retract that statement.
I don't believe in that person. I don't believe that person exists. That thing that you're talking
Why
about,
would you
that
why would you believe
that basic thing
why do you
that people
believe that
have.
I don't feel bad about animals, but it feels so like where is the cutoff point? Like then again, we're back at the same conversation because where is the cutoff point? Like why am I able to not feel bad for animals, but why can't you imagine someone not feeling bad for humans? Where is the huge difference between animals and humans, where you can totally imagine me not feeling bad for animals because you say it's okay for me to eat meat, but you can't imagine it is incomprehensible inimaginable for you to imagine someone not caring about human beings in the same way I don't care about animals. Why is there a cutoff point there?
I think that when we talk about people, I think that once they stray so far from that, we just don't think of them. I think that there's certain moral considerations that people have that group them into what we think of as other people. That's why when people do abhorrent things like you're talking about, say like they're not even human anymore. They're a monster. That's why we come up with things like this because it separates them from what it means to be a person. I think that we have this intuition of what being a person is, which generally involves being a human
Bro,
being in
get
a society.
I hate seeing you there. I hate seeing you in this hole that you've dug yourself. You should get out of that hole. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I hate seeing you like trying to like get out of there, but it's not possible. You won't be able to get out of there. Like you can you're digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. You're basically now
Well, I'm not
creating
digging
two
myself.
classes.
This is how I
Yes, you're
think.
creating now you're now creating two classes of people where some are monsters and some are not. Like basically you've now
No, no, I'm telling you that is
it
how
becomes more
people
and more
behave and
horrible,
how
and
people think.
I don't feel like you really believe that. I don't think that you really believe that.
Well, I'm not thinking of these. This is just what I've already thought.
So
This
do you
isn't
think
something
that
I'm
there is
producing for the
people?
conversation.
So you think that there is people? Do you believe that there is people that don't feel bad about killing just randomly killing five people? Do you think that there is people out there that actually that in the same way, like in the same way that I don't care about killing and eating a cow, do you think that there's people in the world that don't care about killing and, I don't know, raping a human being?
So you know, like the cannibal tribes.
Can you say yes or no, please?
I do think that there are human beings that are cannibals that kill and eat people.
We don't talk about that right now, but do you think that there is like we don't even have to go there. Do you think that in the same way that I think it is a necessary evil and I'm totally fine with killing and eating a cow, someone might think that it is totally fine and okay to bomb a school with 50 children in there because they think it is a necessary evil and is totally fine and they don't feel bad about it at all. Do you think that exists? No, can you just say yes or no?
Yeah, I think that exists.
Okay, thank you. And that means that according to your logic, that I'm trying to get you out of from, according to your logic, that person would be totally, it would be totally fine for him to do that. It would be, there would be no ethical problems with that whatsoever. Just because he's not feeling bad about it. And that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense.
I would say that somebody who does something like that, who does something like that and
Is not
feels
a
that way.
human. That was your new hole. That was the next level
I
to your
said person.
hole
I said person.
was is not a person. Like
I
now
think
you
that's the sense
basically.
that most people have. There's something
So the
fundamentally
thing.
flawed with their biology and psychology that separates them from the rest of society. We exclude them from the group that we consider ourselves in.
So the thing that so ethics don't the rules of ethics don't work anymore for that group of persons.
I think that the way that it would generally be viewed
So
and
basically,
discussed as is that this person has no morals. This is how we generally would
no, but
describe this because we separate them
so
from the rest of us.
so you I asked you why is it okay for me? Why is it ethically fine for me to eat meat and not for you? And you said because you don't feel bad about it, and I feel bad about it. That was your what you were saying. And now I find you an example where someone doesn't feel bad about it, and but you still think it's ethically wrong, right? So now the question is, why doesn't this rule apply to that person? Just because that it's not a person? Like that's what you're saying now? So you're now saying that this rule doesn't apply anymore to someone killing 50 children in a hospital? Why doesn't it apply to that person? Because it's not a person? Is that what you're saying?
I'm I'm trying to. I think I'm starting to see the disconnect here. I don't know. For when I talk about morals, I'm talking about a framework that's built up from a foundation that sort of like pass fail checks are oughts, right?
You have to
If
answer
this
that.
person
You
thinks,
still have to answer that, Drazi. You have to answer why,
hang on,
because
I think that
you have
you
to
and I are
answer
saying two different things.
why doesn't the thing that you're saying about me and you, why does it stop applying to that third example that I gave? What's
I'm
wrong
trying
with
to.
that third
I was
example?
trying to answer that.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I think that when we talk about what's morally right or wrong, we're talking about a system internally that sort of pass fail checks our oughts, what we ought to do. And for this person, I would say that internally, they're not doing anything morally wrong, but then we externally apply how we feel about it onto them and say that it's a moral wrong. There's two
Okay,
different ways
but
of looking at
can't you do that?
morality here.
That's the only way to determine morality is the outside thing. That's the only thing that is relevant for us. And why did you decide to apply the internal one for me and then the internal one for you? But then for the third one, you're all of a sudden like, ah, no, now we have to switch to the external one.
No, I'm saying from there. I've been talking about internal this whole time, and now I see that you're relying on morality to be external. So that mean somebody who lives a life unexamined has no more moral value at all?
You said it is ethically completely fine for me to do something because I feel like it's not bad. So the ethical line that is crossed is basically me acting against my own feelings. That's the only morally bad thing that you deem like outside from outside. I'm asking you, what do you deem ethically
That's how
wrong
I
about?
define what's
I'm asking
right or
you,
wrong.
what do you think about my behavior? And you think that my behavior is totally fine because I'm acting in accordance to my feelings.
I
That
think that
is
your behavior.
external.
So I think
That
I'm
is
shorthanding
totally
it by saying
external.
it's consistent. You're acting in a way that's
No, it has nothing
consistent
to do
with your
with ethics
morality.
then. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with ethics then. Then it's not about that.
When I think an ethical system is only valuable insofar as it's consistent.
That might be an attribute into, but consistency is not a sufficient thing to make something ethical. That might be something that you need. It might be a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition for something to be ethical. So you
Oh,
might want something to be always consistent, but which is contentious also, but it is not necessary like just because you're consistent. That's what I've shown like since the last half an hour, that something being consistent with my feelings is not a good argument for something being ethical.
well, it's I would say that feelings are separate from it. Because you can't. I don't think that your feelings can always be consistent with your moral
Just
frame.
erase that. Erase that. It's according to you. If I ask you, do you think something is ethical? Either it is ethical for me and you as well, if we are both the same, right? So if we are both the same if the context is the same for both of us, if the situation is both for both of us is the same, it can't be ethical for you, but unethical for me. Our inner feelings about it that don't matter.
What
The
what
way
then
we feel
what's
about
this
it doesn't
context?
matter.
Then what's the context that you're alluding to?
The context is basically everything that the context of the act in the world basically outside of our feelings about it. That's the separation that you created. I haven't even created the separation. You created the separation by saying, I asked you,
When you
so
say
do you know
outside
how
of the
we got
world,
here?
so then I think what you're shorthand saying is how other people feel about it.
No, no. What I'm saying is the necessity for eating, for example. Okay, do you know how we got here? Do you know why we're
Run it.
talking about this?
Yeah,
Okay, why are we talking about this?
because I said that it's unethical for me to eat animals, and it's
Yeah,
okay for you.
and it's okay for me to. But why did we get? Why did we ask that? It was because I was saying that you have to show, in order for you to say that it is unethical to eat meat, you have to show that my arbitrary line that I've drawn around human beings is worse than your arbitrary line that you drew around, or your line period that you drew around some animals and human beings. And then you said, no, I don't have to show that. I think it can be fine for me, but it's not fine for you. So you try to get out of that challenge that I've basically given
Oops.
you to sorry.
Oh, I accidentally clicked you, and it made us both appear on the screen, and I didn't want to do that, so I
Oh,
said,
okay.
"Oops."
So you basically try to get out of the challenge that I gave you, that you have to
Oh
show in
no,
order
we
for
we can
you.
go back to that. I was just stating matter
We
of
should. That's
factly.
what I'm. That's
I
why
was just
I'm
stating matter of
asking.
factly that I don't intend to impose my moral system onto other people. That I'm okay with
That's
other
the thing
people
that we were
acting
talking
outside
about,
of mine. Yeah.
and you have to, if you have an ethical stance about something, the moment you say that it's ethically wrong for you, it is also ethically wrong for me. And in that moment you are imposing, like that's what I said, like that's the same thing with Natalie, where I said you have to do something, and she understood it in the sense of she's forcing someone to do something. But in the same way, if you are saying that something is ethically wrong, you are basically saying that your line is better than mine, and I'm challenging that.
So when I say I'm saying from my framework, this is not okay, but from your framework, it would be okay. That's all I'm really saying. Does that make sense?
No, that doesn't mean anything. Like if something is ethically wrong for you, there must be something and something can't be like if you have a moral framework, it must be wrong for me as well. If it's wrong for you, it must be wrong for me as well. All things equal.
What does all things equal mean?
If I have not eaten for 2 hours and I'm hungry and I'm butchering a cow and eating it, and that's morally wrong, then it's also morally wrong for you in that same situation.
I don't think we can apply this.
Why would like you the thing that you basically opened up is that our inner feelings about what we do there matters whether the act that we commit is wrong or not.
Yeah, I mean you can like. I think that this applies. I think that you agree with this. Like,
You are
is
saying that if I don't feel bad about it, then that makes it okay for me to do so.
what do you think it's wrong for somebody to take multiple wives? Is it morally wrong?
Uh, is it morally wrong? No, no, I don't think so. No, no.
Okay. Do you agree that there's a lot of people that think that it is? From a lot of moral frameworks that it's wrong to take multiple wives.
That they think it is morally wrong, yeah.
From their
But I
framework
wouldn't
it
agree
would
that
be.
it is. No, it's that's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's like basically that's the code that's what I mean. Like you have this extreme relativist, like this you have used such a moral relativist right now that it is even differentiating between two human like between two subjects, not even between cultures. Like there is people that say that something is morally wrong in one culture and something is morally okay in another culture. So you're basically taking this road, but you're taking it to such an extreme place where there is no more ethics then. Like it's all relative. There is no more ethics anymore. Like in that framework, at least you have like two different cultures, and in one framework it is like culturally wrong, and in the other one it is like the framework where ethics is just culture. But that's not where I'm coming from. I'm like, but you're even further than any moral relativist can ever be. You're even saying like between two people, it 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 is actually morally, ethically, both are correct. And if you go so far, then you also have to say that the serial killer and the serial rapist, they're all also ethically moral. That's why I say then there is no more basis for saying that anything is wrong. Like everything is correct then
No, I
at this
think that
point.
I don't think that somebody can be a serial killer and have a consistent ethical framework.
There is no more need for consistency because it just has to be in accordance with their own feelings.
Well, I thought we were using feelings as a synonym for like morals here.
You think that feelings and morals is the same?
I
You
thought
think that
I thought you were
me
using them as
me
a
if I
synonym.
want to steal, if I want to no.
Okay. Yeah, I think that everybody who murders
No,
somebody knows that what they're doing is wrong. Even if they feel like they should do it, I think they know it's wrong still. I don't believe in the person who thinks that it's not wrong. Even I think that they might think that there's something better that might come out of it and they can justify it, but I still think they know it's wrong. I don't believe in the person that thinks that it's right. I just think I believe in a person that can justify it.
I don't know where we're getting with this. But like,
And then if you take the
do you think that
sociopath
like you basically
or
you
psychopath,
basically in order to in order to get out of the hole, you basically butchered ethics completely. Like there is no more ethics left right now. Like we talked about like we had an ethical conversation. At the beginning of this conversation, we had a question where we asked is it ethical to do X, Y? And we both had an understanding of what that meant, right? So we both had an understanding of what it means. At least we had an understanding about what it means to say it is bad that meat eating is bad, or meat eating is good, is okay, is acceptable. Now we don't have that anymore. Like now you've basically butchered ethics to such an extent where it doesn't mean anything anymore, because it is completely dependent on what the person feels about it that does that. There is no more outside force that can say anything about it. So even us having that conversation is completely absurd. Do you understand
You
what I
don't
mean?
think that there's different ethical frameworks that come to completely different conclusions about the same act?
If you think no, I think that I have a that doesn't matter. Like, do you think that what is your question? Your question is that if I think that there can be different moral frameworks that come to different moral conclusions.
About whether something's good or bad, yeah.
Yes, but I still have an opinion about which moral framework is more correct than the other. And that's what we're talking about.
So, yeah, I guess
So
this is.
that's exactly what we're talking about. So your moral framework, I believe that my moral framework is completely arbitrary and leads to me saying that eating animals is okay and eating humans is not okay, and your moral framework is, in my opinion, just as arbitrary and leads to a different conclusion, right? And now the ethical conversation that we're having is to see which moral framework is better, and which moral framework, like basically your challenge is to show that your moral framework is better in order to convince me of adapting your moral framework instead of yours and changing my behavior. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, see,
That's the game we're playing.
I'm
Do you agree
only.
with that description of the thing that like what a veganism debate even is? Do you agree with that?
I think that we're playing two different games then. When I have a veganism debate, I would debate based on I think that you think that it's wrong based on these other moral statements that you've made or that I can get you to make.
Yeah, you can also go with that, but you can also go with saying that within your moral framework, you already think that, like, it already, sorry, within your moral framework, it is wrong to do that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's the second option. That's what I said to Natalie, by the way. I told her you have two options. You can
Yes.
either replace my framework with a new framework, or you can uh,
Correct.
show that my framework, already in my framework, it's wrong.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with, but you're just saying at the end of basically after we came to the point where there was no other way to get out, you basically said that every moral framework is correct, that there is no difference between moral frameworks. We cannot differentiate moral frameworks. And you've also said that in my moral framework, eating meat is not correct. So you've basically removed the do you see what the problem is? So uh, either it distracts me so much, it's so horrible, it's so annoying. I'll
It
do
makes it
everything that this
it's
never
already
happens
a
again.
little
It's so
funny,
annoying.
but the fact that you react to it
Yeah,
makes it so much funnier.
it's so annoying. I hate it so much. I already hate it if I'm getting
So
distracted.
I
So
would say that
so you
every
basically
moral
you're
framework
having a
is as
conversation.
valid
No,
as long as they're equally consistent.
bro.
I value
Then
consistency
don't
the
say
most in a
then
moral
don't
framework.
say then don't say that something is ethical, that basically everything is as ethical as long as it is inconsistent with your feelings. Then that doesn't make any sense. These
When
things cannot be both true at the same time.
when we said feelings, I thought you were using feelings as a placeholder for morals there
Bro,
or
I
ethics.
asked you, I asked you,
Mm.
do you think that what I'm doing is morally wrong? Do you think that what you said no? You think that I'm totally fine with not eating with meat? Like, in your framework, from your point of view,
Hmm.
it is totally fine for me to not eat meat. That's what you're saying basically.
Well,
Because
what I'm saying when I say no to that, what I'm saying is that I don't think that you have a moral framework that would disallow you from eating meat. And therefore, I think that you would have to be compelled to do so. Because without a
Bro,
moral
that makes
framework that disallows
absolutely
it, the
no
pros would outweigh the
sense
cons.
whatsoever. That makes no sense whatsoever. Bro, you should have never entered that hole where you said that basically something being ethical or not depends on whether I feel bad about it or not.
Again, when we said feel bad about it, I thought you were using feelings as a placeholder for like your moral framework.
You said feelings.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything.
we were already using it, and I just that's what I had meant when I said that, and I thought that's how
So
we were using them
what is the
interchangeably.
so okay, we basically now agreed what it means to convince the other person that your position is right. So what the goal should be that either you show that my framework is worse than yours, and that I should switch my framework to adopt yours, or you have to find that in my framework it is already like that already in my framework it is wrong to eat animals.
Yeah,
And
in
we've
that
seen
first
that
one,
my framework wait, if we've seen that in my framework it's just arbitrary. There is no possibility to think that animals eating is wrong. So the only way you can convince me is by saying that my framework is worse than yours. Okay?
the
And you
only
can
way I
only
can
do
do
that
that,
is by showing that it is less arbitrary than yours.
the only way I think you can do that is by showing that your moral framework is inconsistent.
Yes, or you can do that, but since it's arbitrary, there is no way you can find that any inconsistency.
Right. I think that when we're in that realm, the only thing that I can then do
So
is find where I
can
think that you already agree and show you.
no. The only thing you can do right now in order to convince me that's the whole thing that vegans also do. Like by the way, the thing that I'm describing right now, you have been doing, and Natalie also, you've been doing the whole time. The thing that you're trying to do is to show me that science is on your side and that the line that you're drawing is actually not arbitrary, that the line that you're drawing is actually rooted in science, rooted in empiric facts, rooted in the facts of the matter, rooted in the way nature is, the way the world is, right?
Oh,
That's
wait,
what you're trying to
hang
do.
on.
And if you could prove that, if you could show that, then you would have proven that your line that you're drawing around some animals and humans is better than my line, and then I would have to basically drop my framework and adopt yours.
I don't think that even if I had the perfect experiment to show where intellect A existed, I don't think that that would impact you at all. I don't think that you would care.
I have no idea what that means.
Well, we already agreed on what intellect A is, yeah? This is the placeholder we've been
Wait,
using.
wait. I don't want you to just skip what I just because I've done so much work to recapitulate our conversation. I want you to at least acknowledge or disagree with what I've just said. So your goal has been from the beginning, and also Natalie's goal has been from the beginning to show that the line they're drawing, like the protective line that they're drawing around
No,
living beings, is not arbitrary. That's the thing. If
no,
you say
I have said
if you say that
already. I already conceded that it's arbitrary, but it's but I the way that I'm basing that it I gave you that over an hour ago.
but if you say it is just as arbitrary as my line, I feel like you haven't. You have constantly said that, like, if it's arbitrary, why even talk about type A intelligence? It doesn't matter then, right? That all of that doesn't matter. And if it's just arbitrary, it's not better than my line.
I never claimed
Like,
better.
how is it? Ex- that's the thing. But you can't not claim it's better if you at the same time think that it is unethical to eat meat. Like if it's the same, you can't claim that it is unethical to eat meat and claim at the same time that you don't think that your moral framework is better, right? We have
Because your line is
equivocated these two
arbitrary
things.
based on just how
Something,
you feel, I
if something,
cannot touch it.
it, come again?
Because your line is arbitrary just based on how you feel, your arbitrary line is humans and everything else. I can't touch that, no matter what.
You could touch it if your framework is not arbitrary. If you have a framework that is not arbitrary, then I would have to throw away my framework and apply your framework because an arbitrary framework is not a good framework. It's a bad framework inherently.
Yeah, but I already gave you. I said, sure, mine is arbitrary too. I just happen to rely on these ideas to base my
Yeah,
arbitrary
but
line.
the moment you say I happen to rely on these ideas, you're basically introducing non-arbitrary things to the equation. And so there is no reason, if both our frameworks are arbitrary. If, for example, we would say, Drazi, let me just give you an example. Like, for example, if we would just say, I don't kill bugs, okay? And
Yep.
you say, I don't kill birds. And then we are just like, yeah, let's, okay, but no one would basically say that the action of the other person is unjust. In the same way that I don't kill dogs, but I'm totally fine with Chinese people killing dogs. Like, I don't think that they're doing something ethically deplorable when they're doing that. Just because, since I have already accepted that it's just some arbitrary line that I'm drawing from my own feelings. But it's not. I would never judge a Chinese person and tell them like that's not ethical to do so,
Would you judge your neighbor for
right?
doing so?
No,
Oh, really? If
no,
you
like it's not
if you saw your neighbor
because
killing a dog
because
in their
it's just
backyard, you wouldn't feel anything different about them?
that's something else. Me feeling something about it is not the same as, like, in the same way I would feel something about my child getting an operation. Like, I would feel something about it, right? But i- that doesn't mean that I can judge it
Hang on.
ethically. That's not the same thing.
Hey, well then I would have to ask you why. Why would you feel if your neighbor did it?
Because I don't think that there is a substantial, like, the moment that my neighbor would have like a personal bond with the pet, and then would have like years of,
Well, I didn't
but
say there's their
even then,
pet.
but it doesn't matter, like, even then, people herd sheep, people love their sheep, and then they kill and eat them, right? So, and I don't have an ethical problem with that. So, like, it would not be, it would make no sense for me to have an ethical problem with that. Like, what could I say to that person? Like, why would I get mad at that person, or why would I think like that what
I
they did
just
is
asked. All
horrible?
I did was ask why. Why you would feel differently about your neighbor killing the dog than a
Because it's
Chinese
so
person.
unusual to me, like, because it has such a uh it's it's just a shock factor that is like, it's extremely different from, just like the question of why do you have a certain reaction to someone.
Wait, you had that shock
Hold on,
factor.
hold on. It's just like with taking a medication versus having an operation. Both serve the same purpose, but we have a totally different reaction to it.
All right, I want to
It's the
counter what
exact
you just
same
said
thing.
about the shock factor. You had that shock factor when you were in, was it Vietnam? But then you decided
Yeah,
it was okay.
my feelings, my feelings, my shock factor, my disgust doesn't determine whether I think that action is good or bad. In the same way, my
You're
disgust
answering
that I
questions I'm not
feel,
asking.
my disgust that I feel for someone getting an operation and having all of their organs out on the open is not determining whether I think that it was good that this happens or not.
You're
So
answering a lot of
how am
questions
I
I'm
not
not
answering?
asking.
Which question are you asking?
I said, okay, first I said, why would you feel differently about your neighbor doing it? You said the shock factor. Then I said, well, you felt that shock factor in Vietnam, but that
Yes.
didn't change how you felt about it. So why would the shock factor from your neighbor change how you feel about it if you still had that shock factor and it
Wait, when
did?
you say you feel about it, do you mean how I feel about it ethically, what I think about it ethically, or when you say you feel
I'm
about it,
just,
how I what I emotionally feel in that moment when I see it? Like, that's two
I
separate
meant,
things.
I meant it the way you said it when you talked about seeing your neighbor do it.
Yeah, I mean how I feel about it emotionally in that moment, not how I feel about it ethically.
Okay, and then I say why.
Emotional reaction that I'm showing to something. That's what I mean when I say how I
Sure,
feel
and then when
about
I
it.
say why, you say the shock factor. And then I say, okay, but you felt differently about it when it was in Vietnam, even though that shock factor was there. I'm trying to see what the incongruity is.
No, I felt the exact same way. That was like the exact same thing. Like, actually, we could just take the Vietnam example. It's like the exact same thing. I had a shock. There was a shock factor. I had a shock reaction to it, like, where I was like, "Wow!" Like, but I didn't think like, "Oh, what a horrible lady." There was an old lady who was like standing there and selling the dog, basically selling the meat of the dog. But I didn't think like, "Oh, what a horrible person." And in the same way, I don't think, but I would think that if there would be a child.
Sure.
that is there and roasted, and I would have a shock reaction as well. But that's these two things are not directly a one-to-one correlation.
I think
Where
I
every
think you
time I
would
have a shock reaction,
I think that you would
I also
feel a
have
lot
to think
differently
that it's
about your
absolutely
neighbor
horrible.
than if it was in Vietnam.
I mean, there is negative externalities. We can go into that. Like there is stuff like what's the correlation between people that kill and eat dogs in our current culture here and other things that might be dangerous about them, right? But I don't think that that old lady in Vietnam was. I don't think I'm not scared of her, but I might be scared of my neighbor,
You should be.
right?
She's a
After he does that.
psychopath. I'm just kidding.
I don't. Yeah,
I'm
right. You
just
don't
kidding.
think that either, right? Like, yeah,
No.
right. But I might think that about my neighbor, right? I'll be like if he's not Chinese, obviously. Like if he's Chinese, like or Vietnamese, like I'm like or Korean. I think in Korea also, like
I
in
still
from
think
the
there's
area.
something to say about somebody who lives next door to you and they're just like I'm gonna do this thing that's like cool for us, but like I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. I'm gonna go in my backyard and let them all see me skin this fucking dog. But
Maybe he wants to make a point.
yeah, that's a scary fucking guy.